In today's video, I'm going to show you how to change the strings on a Gibson Les Paul. Alright guys, Matt here, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing really well. So I'm going to show you how to change the strings on a Gibson Les Paul, so let's jump straight into it. So the tools I'm going to be using for this restring are some wire cutters. I've also got a string winder, not essential, but really helpful to speed up the process. I've also got some F1 oil to dress the fretboard when we take the strings off and before we put the new ones on. And I'm also going to use a bit of elect tape, and that's the first thing I'm going to do. So with Gibson Les Pauls, when you take all the strings off, what you'll find is that the tailpiece will come off and also the bridge will loosen up. So what you might want to do, and you don't have to do this, but I'm going to do it for today, is I'm just going to use a bit of elect tape, or you can use masking tape, just to hold the bridges in place so that when we take all the strings off, nothing's going to move around. You could just leave one string on and replace the other 5 and then replace that last string at the end, but because I'm going to dress the fretboard, I'm going to make sure that the bridge and tailpiece are secured in place. So first of all, we're going to do that. So just going to bring that, stick that over the top of there. It's not going to be on for very long. And one on the other side, like so. Alright, so I'll just stop that from coming off, and also it just prevents the screws from moving, because these will move, and also these screws can move as well once all the strings are off. And if you had your guitar set up, or you like the way it's set up, it's quite handy if you can just leave everything where it is. So I'm just going to do the same thing with these ones as well, and one on the other side. That should be alright. There we go. And now we're ready to start unwinding the strings. Okay, so we're now ready to start unwinding the strings. Incidentally, I'm going to be using D'Addario gauge 11 to 52 for this restring because my guitar's set up that way, but yours might be set up with gauge 10s or perhaps gauge 9, so just make sure you've got the right gauge for your guitar. Doesn't matter too much if you use the wrong gauge, but it may affect the guitar further down the line if you've got a heavier gauge than what it's set up for, because your truss rod will be adjusted according to the thickness of your strings. So I'm going to grab the string winder, and we're going to start off by loosening off string number 6. Now I'm going to keep my strings, so I'm going to loosen them all off so that I can unwind from the machine head and then feed that through the bridge once they're all off. Alright, so you can see there's enough there to unravel that string, and that will just, there we go, poke through like so. So that's ready. I'm just going to unwind the end of this string. It's a little bit easier to feed through. And also, if we ever want to use the string again, if it's all straightened out, that'll be easier to feed back through the bridge and the machine head for when we want to keep it or reuse it perhaps. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on string 5, like so. So really quick with the string winder, definitely speeds up the process. And that's ready to unravel. There we go, pops off nice and easily. Just a word of warning, be really careful when you're working with the strings. The ends of your strings are very sharp, especially the first, second and third. It's really easy to prick the fingers on the ends of the strings. So just be really careful with that if you've not done it before. Okay, we could do the same thing with string number 4. Okay, now some people prefer not to take all the strings off at once, but I like to do this if I'm going to dress the fretboard. Makes it a lot easier. Some people prefer to change one string at a time, but they're only going to be off for a short space of time whilst we dress the fretboard, and then we'll put the new strings on straight away. I've seen a lot of guitar luthiers do this as well. So, okay, same thing with string number 3. Just going to unwind the string until it's ready to come off the machine head. As I said before, be really careful with the ends of the strings, especially if you've got a fairly thick gauge. Strings 3, 2 and 1 can be especially painful if you catch them on your fingers. Alright, so that's pretty loose, and there we go. So it just pops out fairly easily. Again, I'm just going to straighten that out a little bit so that we can feed it through the bridge. Okay, there we go. If you've got your pliers, sometimes you can use your pliers just to straighten that out a little bit, like so. Okay, that'll do for now. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing with string number 2. Just loosen that off. That's nearly ready to pop out. So sometimes these will pop out by themselves, and then sometimes you might just have to give them a little pull. There you go, you can see that's just come out really easily. Just unfold that, unravel it a little bit so we can feed that through the bridge. and that's all good. And then last one, string number 1. So as I said before, you could leave one of these strings on if you're not fussed about dressing the fretboard, and that will hold the bridge and the tailpiece in place. But that's why I put some elect tape down, because I'm going to take them all off. And there we go, that's just popped out, and that's all good. Okay, so now I'm going to feed them all through the bridge. Doesn't matter what order you do this in, but I'll start with string number 6. So we're just going to push that through, and you'll see the end coming through there, like so. We'll just pull that through. And where I've straightened out the string a little bit from where it's been on the machine head, it will now just feed through like so. Really, really simple. And that's ready now to hang on to keep as a spare. All I do there is just wrap them around, pretty much like you got them out the packet in the first place. And there we go, that's ready to keep as a spare. And we're just going to do that with each string, so we're just going to feed that through. So there's the A string. Again, we'll just wrap that up. The other thing I love about the Dario strings is that they've got the colour ball ends. So we've got the red one there for the A string, you can find it really quickly. We've got the gold one there for string number 6. And feed string number 4 through the bridge and tailpiece. And there we go, that's come up nice and easily. We'll wrap that up so it's ready to use again. There we go, job done. And same with the 3rd string. You can see there where I've just unravelled it, again like the other strings, that's going to feed through the bridge nice and easily. Again, we'll wrap that up so it's ready to use once again as a spare, like so. And we've got string number 2. There we go, nice and simple. Again, we'll just wrap that up real quick. All good. And last but not least, string number 1. And there we go, that feeds through nice and easily. Job done. So we've removed all the strings there, and this is where the elect tape, or masking tape if you're using masking tape, comes in real handy. Right, so if you don't do that, this will come off. You can see there it's just a little bit loose there, and that will be loose as well. So that will come off, and the tailpiece will come off as well. So yeah, if you want to hold that in place, that's where the elect tape comes in real handy. So next thing we're going to do is dress the fretboard, so let's do that now. Okay, so ready for the fret dress, I've got my F1 oil, and I've also got a couple of cloths, so one to apply the oil and then one to remove the oil afterwards. So you don't need too much, a little amount will go a long way, and I'm just going to rub that in. So you can see that comes up real nice when you rub the oil into the fretboard. So you just want to leave that to soak in for a few minutes, and then you can wipe the excess away with your other cloth, which I'm going to do next. Okay, so that's dried in for a couple of minutes, so now I'm just going to wipe away the excess. And there we have a nice, clean, smooth looking fretboard, ready for the restring. Okay, so I'm going to start off here with string number 6. I'm just going to unravel the A and E string. Just be careful when you unravel, make sure you got hold of the ends here, because they are quite sharp. And there we go. So we're just going to start off by feeding the 6th string through the tailpiece and over the bridge, so you'll see the holes at the end here. So this will be the hole for string number 6, so we'll feed that in like so, and that will pop over the bridge. You might just need to sort of pull it upwards like so. Alright, then we'll pull that all the way through until that's pulled through nice and tight and it can't go any further, and then we're ready to attach that to the machine head. Alright, so we're ready to feed that through the machine head here. So string 6, make sure you leave enough slack on this side so we've got enough to wind around the machine head. What I tend to do is just push down with my first finger against the nut, and then I've got all the slack here in order to get the winds around the machine head. Something else I like to do is just fold the string upwards, and then you might need to do this once more once you start winding, and just helps to keep that part of the string out of the way whilst you're winding around. So grab your string winder, and then we can just start bringing that round. So we're aiming for about 2 or 3 winds. That might also happen sometimes where the string just pops out a little bit, but just again fold the string upwards, keep the tension between your finger and the machine head, and then you'll start to feel it winding round. Again, maintaining that tension. If you lose the tension, what will happen is if I let go now, it will start to unravel around the machine head, and that gets worse the thinner the string gets as well. So just pull it nice and tight, continue winding, and eventually you'll feel the rest of the string starting to pull tightly. And there we've got our 2 wounds. Might get a third one out of it, or nearly a third wound. Don't forget though, the strings will stretch in as well, so as they start to stretch you're going to need to turn them around again, so you often get another quarter to half a turn out of the string just from stretching them in properly. I'm just going to roughly tune that up close as I can get, just from hearing it by ear. And then what we're going to do is just cut away the excess. So if you grab your pliers, we'll just cut that down. You can cut it right up against the machine head. I tend to leave just a little bit there just in case, and I'm just going to fold that down so it's out the way. And there we have it, string 6. See, it's already gone flat there where we cut the string, and it's starting to stretch. And what we'll do at the end is we'll do a proper string stretch at the end, but we don't need to worry about that right this second. Okay, now we're ready to add string number 5. Okay, so on the basis that you've tightened your 6th string and there's enough tension there, you can actually now remove the elect tape or masking tape, whichever one you've used. So I'm just going to do that now, and that one string will hold everything in place. You can of course just do this at the end if you want to, but just wanted to show that because one string is on, we no longer have to worry about any of these coming off. Okay, so we're now ready to feed the 5th string through. So we're going through the hole directly next to the 6th string. So through the tail piece and then up, pull it up above the bridge here. Another thing I forgot to mention actually whilst doing the 6th string is when you're tightening the string on the machine head is just make sure that the string stays inside the groove. Quite often you might find that as you're tightening the string you might not realise that the string has sort of moved to the side. So there you can see it's inside the groove, but sometimes it might switch to the side or fall in the other gap there. So just be aware of that when you're tightening the string. Double check the bridge as you're tightening the machine head. Okay, so we're ready to feed the 5th string through the machine head like so. Again, we're going to pull that and then just make sure we leave enough slack on this side. Again, I'm just going to push down with the string against the nut here. You can push anywhere as long as you keep the tension between where you're holding the string and the machine head so that that stays nice and tight as you start to wind the string round. Okay, so I've got enough slack there for roughly a couple of wounds, maybe 3, and then we'll grab the string winder, start turning it round, do a quarter of a turn, then we'll lift the string up so it's out the way, and then we'll continue to turn that round, and we'll see the string there starting to wind around the machine head. And you'll feel that getting tighter and tighter, and then you can eventually let go. So I can feel now that's ready to let go. Alright, that's somewhere near A, I reckon. That's close enough. Main thing is there that we've got enough tension there. And then we'll just cut the end off, leave a little bit of excess. Again, you don't have to do that. That's just something I prefer to do, just in case. The likelihood of getting any slippage on the coil wrap strings is unlikely, but there we go. Okay, so now we're ready to attach string number 4. Okay, so we're just going to take our 4th string now, feed that through the tail piece like we did the other 2. Make sure that goes over the top of the bridge. Pull it all the way through, and then it won't go through anymore once the ball end reaches the tail piece, and we're ready to attach to the machine head. Okay, so we're ready to feed the 4th string through the machine head, like so. Pull that all the way through. Again, leave enough slack on this side, so we've got enough to wind around the machine head. I'm just going to do a quick little turn there, about a quarter, so we can then pull that string up. And then, there we're going to get at least a couple of wounds out of the string, maybe 3, but that'll be perfect for now. And there we have it. It's not too far away from D. There we go, and then we'll just cut away the excess. Again, when you do the cuts, it will flatten the string a little bit anyway. usually, especially if you do this as well. There we go. There we go. All right, we're now ready for string number 3. Okay, so third string, again, feed that through the tailpiece, like so, and then just grab the end. Be very careful with the end of string number 3. It's very sharp. Feed that over the top of the bridge, pull it nice and tight, and then again, we're ready to attach that to the machine head. Okay, so we're just gonna feed that third string through. Okay, now we're going to wind the machine head around the other way this time. You'll notice that we keep the strings on the inside. So in order to do that on this side, we're going to be turning the machine head the other way around. This is again where the string winder comes in real handy, because it can start to ache your hand a little bit when you try and do this without a string winder. So again, I'm just going to pull that string upwards, and then we're just going to start turning the machine head around like so, keeping the string nice and tight between your finger and the machine head so it doesn't unravel itself. Again, just be really careful with the ends on these strings because they are super sharp. All right, there we go, that's tightening up nicely. Okay. Cool, that sounds pretty close for now. So I'm just going to cut away the excess. Again, I leave a little bit here, especially on the thinner strings because they're smooth, so they have a tendency to slip more so than the thicker strings. But if you've got enough wounds there, you should be all right. If you've only done one sort of wound, then you might risk string slippage. So make sure you've got at least a couple on the thinner strings. All right, okay, we're now ready for string number 2. Okay, so we're ready to feed the second string through the tailpiece and up and over the bridge. Common mistake, should have mentioned this earlier, is to put the wrong string at the wrong end. So with Les Pauls, really simple. Just remember that the 6th string will be closest to your pickup selector switch, and then you'll be good to go. All right, we're going to feed that second string through the machine head like so. Again, just like the other strings, keep that nice and slack on this side, and then keep the tension with your first finger, or you can hold it with your hand like that. That's totally fine, but I do it this way, and then we can start to turn the machine head. Just gonna bend the string ever so slightly, and then we're ready to start winding. Okay. There we go. I'm just gonna fold that up again, and now that we've got that half a turn, that will stay in position and shouldn't get any slippage there. There we go. So keeping the string nice and tight. So it's usually at this point, if you haven't got a string winder, you do find you get a lot of hand ache. There we go, we can feel that tightening up now. So I'm only tuning these up roughly by ear, but you can use a tuner. Okay, we'll cut away the excess there. Again, I've just left a little bit there just in case we get any slippage, but we generally shouldn't do. But anyway, I'll do that just to be safe. And then we're ready for the final string number 1. So we're going to feed that through the tailpiece, again, just like all the other ones, and then pull that up and over the bridge. Again, when you start tightening the string, just be aware of the string popping out of its little ridge there on the saddle, and then you're good to go. Okay, so feed that through the machine head and pull that through. Again, just like the other ones, leave enough slack there, and then we can start turning. I'm just going to do a quarter of a turn here, and then that way, when I pull the string upwards, like so, I can then pull the tension just enough, and that should stay in place. And there we go, that's taking nicely. Wind it round. So again, just want 2 or 3 winds should be fine for your thin strings. You can do 4 if you want, doesn't really matter. And there we have okay, so I've got about 2.5 winds there, but again, the string is going to stretch, so there'll be more room for winding later on as the string starts to stretch in. Just going to grab the wire cutters and just leave enough excess there, just in case, and there we go. 1 restrung Les Paul. All I'm going to do now is just stretching the strings, so I'll show you how you can do that next. Okay, so I've tuned all the strings up, but they will inevitably go flat because they're brand new. So if we listen to string 6. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to stretch that in by pulling on it like so. And then we you can hear it's gone flat, so I'm just going to bring that back up to E. And I'm just going to do that 2 or 3 times, 4 if you want to, depending on what gauge string you've got. If you've got a thinner gauge, then you might want to do this a few extra times, but because these are quite a heavy gauge, they tend to stay in tune relatively well, or they tend to stretch in relatively quickly. Alright, already that's much closer to E, so I'm just going to do that 1 more time, and that'll be fine for the 6th string. There we go, it's super close now. Barely had to move that at all. Okay, so I'll do the same thing for A. So that's currently at pitch. Now if I stretch that in for the first time, that's going to go flat straight away. About a semitone out. Okay, I'll do that a couple more times for this string, and that will be enough to keep that relatively in tune. Already that's staying nice and close. Okay, I'll do that 1 more time. There we go, that's pretty good. Alright, do the same thing on the D. So I'm going to stretch that in. Again, we'll notice that go pretty flat. Yeah, getting about a semitone out. Okay, I'm just going to do that once more on the D string, because these ones are pretty stable, because I've got gauge 11 to 52s. As I say though, if you've got a gauge 9s or 10s, you might want to do this 1 or 2 extra times. Okay, moving on to the thinner strings now. Just be a little bit more careful when you get to the thinner strings, because obviously they're thinner and they're a bit weaker. So they have a tendency to snap if you pull on them too hard. Again, that's about a semitone out, so I'm just going to do that a couple more times on the 3rd string. Pretty close. Do that once more. We obviously tend to do a lot of string bending on the thinner strings, so stretch them in prior to doing that will help. Okay, and then string number 2. So that's roughly at the pitch of B. Just going to stretch that in. Again, just be really careful when you're stretching in the thinner strings, especially if you've got gauge 9s. Super thin, so they will snap if you're not too careful. Alright, I'm going to leave that as that is for now. You can do it a few more times if you want to. I'll move on to string number 1. Okay, that's at pitch, so I'm just going to stretch in. Just be really careful with the 1st string. So I just want to pull on it just a little bit, and then that's not too bad actually. I'll do that 1 more time, and then what I do after this as a continuation of this process is I actually do some string bends on the guitar. So I'll do a bunch of tone bends on the thinner strings, maybe some bends on the thicker strings as well if you want to. But I find that actually playing and stretching in really helps as well. And there we go. That one's actually a little bit sharp. There we go. There we have it. Job done. Well, there we have it guys, a freshly restrung Gibson Les Paul. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, feel free to hit the thumbs up button and maybe think about subscribing to the channel. And if you hit the bell icon, then you'll get notifications on any future videos. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next video.